welcome to Election Night Live. I'm Pat Kazikoff, and I'm here in the studio at WHCI in West Hartford, Connecticut. We're talking about the municipal elections, and I have with me three distinguished guests who have been chosen by their respective parties to, I guess, to be experts.
Okay.
So on my left, I have Steve Adler, who has been chosen by the ACP party.
Right. A Connecticut party.
A Connecticut party.
Yeah.
And I understand that you had the same sort of history. You were a Republican and then you became an independent.
That's right. What is Steve doing? Yeah, so I've been a Republican conservative for most of my life. When I ran and I was on the council from 2007 to 2013, I was a Republican, and then for one period I did switch to independent. Really only because I really got tired of some of the divisive behavior and, really the partisanship discussions and things that were going on. I think really issues were more people-based and more issues focused.
Are you the genesis of what's going on now in West Hartford, the ACP party? Lowell Weiker's party has been reconstituted.
Yeah.
Is that from you?
I don't think so. I think when you look at this party here, Lee Gold and Mark Merritt and the rest of the team, they've done a great job really talking about the issues, being issue-focused, and really talking about more inclusionary behavior and how to really get more diverse perspectives and really without being too partisan. And I think that's really what this is about.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And also we have on our, to the left of Steve Adler, we have Chris Williams. And Chris Williams, I understand that this is going to be your last year serving. And I wanted to thank you on behalf of the West Hartford, WHCI, and everybody. We know what a big deal it is to serve the public, and you've done a fantastic job, but you're saying goodbye.
Yes, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. It's great to be here tonight with Michael, Stephen, and yourself. That was very kind of you, but really it's been my honor to serve my hometown's town council, so it's really been a privilege. I've enjoyed it a lot. But it's time for the next chapter.
So what's the future? What are you going into?
Being a dad, helping raise my kids. They're 8 and 6, and getting into all sorts of the next stage interests, and I want to be a big part of that and working on my legal career. But I love politics, policy, and volunteering for folks.
So maybe we'll see you again.
Maybe. I don't know if as a candidate, but more volunteering and things like that.
We never know.
Yeah,
we never know.
Well, we'll see.
And to the left of Chris Williams, we have Michael Kroll, who's here representing the Dems.
Good evening, Pat. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for your service, Chris.
And Michael, you've also had some political experience. You ran for probate judge.
I did. I ran a primary a few years back, and it was a great experience. I'd done some campaign work. I've been very supportive of the Democratic Party for years, and it gave me great insight into the other side and what it's like to be a candidate. And it's different to be a candidate than just working on a campaign. And the people who have run and served, they understand it's a hard decision, it's a lot of work.
Well, I have to tell you that today I was out interviewing West Hartford people. I went to the polling stations, and I was inspired by what I heard. We were talking to the people about why they vote. And I have to say that as I'm listening to the people, I want to run for public office. I was so inspired by it, and we're going to take a look now at a video that we did today that's going to talk exactly why people vote. Tell me, why do you vote?
I think we have a wonderful democracy, and it's everybody's responsibility to participate.
I vote to give my opinion. It's the one time I can actually give my opinion, and hopefully it's heard.
I'm coming with Dad to see what it's like to be voting.
You just left the voting booth. Yes. So why are you voting?
It's kind of my voice on how I'd like my town or my country how I'd like it to be.
Tell me, why do you vote?
Oh, well, we have this great privilege of being able to vote in our country, so we are here to demonstrate that.
And what about you? Do you know do you vote too?
I don't vote
No.
because I'm not old enough.
You're not old enough, but when you're old enough, do you think you're going to vote?
Yeah.
I'm with West Hartford Community Interactive,
Oh,
and
good.
and I wanted to ask you why do you vote?
It's important. I mean, you want the right people to be running the town.
I think it's important to vote because obviously everybody has opinions on what they want to see happen in their community and what they want to see happen in their country. And voting is definitely the best way to express that and to actually have a say in that change. Even if you can't actively participate in the government, voting is a good way to get your voice heard.
And Hazel, tell me, why do you vote?
I just feel it's my civic duty. If I don't vote, then I can't say anything derogatory about anybody.
It's our civic duty, it is our right, it is everyone's right, and it shouldn't be denied to anyone at any time, ever. And it's too bad that these don't get more attention. These are the actual important elections that impact our local everyday lives, so these should be definitely getting a lot more press.
I'm Pat Kazikoff. You're watching WHCI on Election Day. Okay, so you can see why I was inspired. I mean, it seems like the people of West Hartford really take their civic responsibility seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Chris, thanks for your civic duty. I mean, you've done really appreciate you stepping up and doing a great job. In terms of your civic duty, it is your civic duty, and part of that civic duty when you're on the council. And I can speak from a conservative, being in the minority position, and I'm sure Chris can as well, is that there has to be dialogue, and there has to be really, some sort of level of civility and engagement, and really a dialogue around public policy, around ordinances, around allocation of capital and things like that. So I think that's really important.
I agree 100% it's important. So let's talk about the framework of this particular election. So this is an unusual election. So why is it unusual? Well, you have 6 people running. 6 parties running. You have the 2 major parties. Let's delete the word major. You have the 2 traditional parties. You have the Republicans and the Democrats, and then you have the 2, we're not going to say minor parties, let's say the other parties. You have the Libertarians and also the ACP, and plus you have 1 petitioning candidate. The only time that there were more people running was in 1979. Now, was anybody around in 1979? Does anybody remember that? There were 18 people running.
Well, I was here, but not
not there.
I was here as well,
okay.
but I didn't understand politics back then.
So take a look at those permutations and combinations. What do you think can happen in this race? I mean, it's very interesting. Michael, why don't you start?
Again, I look at the way West Hartford has been run for the past 20 years or so, and we have to say, I will say, that I think our town is, if we don't have the best school system, the best fire department, the police department, we have one of the best in the state. And there's a reason why people are moving to West Hartford when they move into Connecticut now. We're the place to be, we're the place to come to. And for that reason, I think you got to look at the leadership for the last 20 years. And leadership has been democratic.
21 years.
21 years.
You are correct.
I knew it was 21, but I said 20.
Years.
But for the last 21 years, and if you believe your town is being run well, you're going to support the people that have run it well. So I do think that all 6 of our candidates will get a spot. I do believe that they're going to come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The other party, it's interesting because it's really, I know you said there are 2 parties, but it's really, you have to remember that it was 1 party just about a year ago. It's less than a year ago where they split. So to me, it's still a two-party issue here in West Hartford. And it's going to be interesting.
I don't know if everybody agrees with that.
I won't disagree, but I'm a Democrat, so I'm going to, of course I believe that.
Analysis is very interesting and it's very eloquent, but I'm not sure that everybody agrees. Chris, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who doesn't agree with that concept.
I could see it in your body
and
language.
It's kind of funny, Steve is now ACP independent, but he's one of the people who encouraged me to run. It's
tell
kind
me
of
about
interesting.
that.
He's always been a supporter.
How did that happen?
Well, when he served on town council, I think we just became friends, and he encouraged me to run when I first did in, I think, 15. So that's a little backstory. And it's funny, with the mosaic that has now become our political picture here, what I think you've seen over the last 20 years is this. If you look at the number of people who vote in a municipal election, the total has dropped off precipitously.
Yes.
And I think that partially is because the public doesn't think that there's going to be an outcome other than 6 Democrats being elected and then 3 something else. Now, to the point about, and I think one of the reasons I've run is that I think there's an issue with fiscal sustainability in West Hartford. We're unique because we have one of the highest mill rates, but also high property values, which is unique to West Hartford. A lot of times where you see high mill rates, it's in places that the property values are lower, so the tax burden is lower. But in this particular year, I think what you're seeing develop is people do want an alternative choice from the Democrat Party. Now, the thing that I don't think we have is a 2 parties that represent conservative principles. Because if
very,
you look,
very tough
now,
words, Chris.
It's true. Now, if you look
Very
I am
tough.
friendly with Mr. Gold, but if you look at his voting record, on every major issue, save for one, he has joined the majority party.
So let's that's an opinion.
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, Michael has an opinion, you have, and I think the representative of ACP will have an opinion too.
Yeah, I certainly have an opinion. So listen, it's really important to bring a balance to both conservative and liberal side of, or Democratic side of thinking in terms of capital allocation and budgeting. It is okay, and I need to, people need to understand it's okay to be conservative without being crazy, So let's be really careful about that. So when we look at, and when we talk about local politics, when we look at the election, we always say, well, politics is always local. Not this election. This election is really about the national theater. And we need to really talk about, what has occurred nationally with Trump, what has really occurred and create divisiveness among, in terms of what occurred with the Capitol, what occurred with immigration, and other things like that. And I think people are really, they're absolutely fed up with that type of conflict that's going on.
In West Hartford, Chris, you were correct. Nationally, there's about 15% of the people who vote. And West Hartford's a little higher than that. Which speaks to the civic.
I actually, Pat, I believe over the past few elections, if we haven't had the highest percent turnout, we've had one of the highest in the state.
Right, but it's still low.
It's still low overall,
Like
but West Hartford residents do come out and vote. That's important.
But I think an important fact to note is within the voter demographic of Connecticut, the highest voter demographic is unaffiliated. So what does that tell you? That tells you that there's a lot of people who may have a conservative slant to their thinking, but they're really disenfranchised with some of the parties. And I would say there's a huge opportunity from a conservative perspective to grab some of that 41%, because overall, historically, particularly recently, the Republican Party really isn't branding and gathering the value proposition of the voter. And I think a lot of that is due to a lot of the ethical and moral conflicts that are going on.
So with the ethical and moral conflicts, let's go there a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we have the 4 parties. Everyone seems to agree that there's 4 parties and there's one petitioning candidate. And everyone seems to agree that there could be a balance, an imbalance. How do you think this is going to shake out? Let's say you have the Democrats need 5 seats and then they have a majority. But there's no way that the ACP or the Republicans can have a majority because they only have 3 seats and 4 seats running. How do you think it's going to shake out? A little opinion. No one's going to.
I'm on the hot spot.
No one's going to tell you
Again,
this.
as I said at the beginning, I think the Democrats will take 6 seats.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I do believe the ACP has a good chance of taking 1, if not 2 seats. I do know a couple of the ACP candidates very well. They're longtime friends. Unfortunately, I don't know as many of the Republicans just because I haven't had the chance to interact with them. Chris and I have had a lot of interactions in the past. But overall, I think that you're going to see the 6, and it's either going to be 2 and 1 or 1 and 2, but I don't know which one.
So, what are you thinking? I mean, this is
my perspective,
this is a traditional view. 21 years of Democratic rule. Yeah. What are you thinking, Chris?
Well, I would just jump back to some of the comments Steve made about Trump and the inference there that somehow being a Republican is there's an equivalency there with being crazy. It's a branding issue, but I'll tell you this, Pat. I've been around town politics for a while, even though I'm only 38. And when George W. Bush
Congratulations.
Thank you. When George W. Bush was president, there was a lot of bad feelings about him and a lot of resentment towards the branding of Republicans here in town. So yes, Trump is sort of a lightning rod, but I think the fact that the Republicans are the minority party in the town has remained pretty constant.
So you know what I want to do now? When this morning when I was out interviewing people, the other question that I asked people are, what are the issues? What are the big issues? Because that's going to determine a lot. Yeah. So let's take a look at the video and we'll take a look at what are the issues of the people.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
It's not clear how the election's going to turn out, but what is clear is that people really love being in West Hartford. What are the issues in West Hartford? I'm sure we're going to find out some new answers. Any issues that are particularly of interest to you?
Oh, education, the economy, safety, very, very big on safety issues.
Affordable housing, property, taxes, our services, I hope we maintain them and keep them, and roads, infrastructure, and schools, education, and services for the elderly.
Education is very high. I think we need to pay our teachers more. They're the most important people in our society.
Environment, right to vote, right to control your own body, and trying to keep this country free and open.
What issues are important to you?
Schools are very important to people. Property values, as you can see, people have been able to sell their homes for more than they were worth a couple years ago. Health safety, as you can see, I have my mask here, and just making sure that your town is taken care of and it's managed in the right way.
So what are the issues that are important to you?
Education. Even though I don't have any children in school, I believe that they're the future for our country, and they should have a balanced education, primarily the reading, writing, and arithmetic. And another one is crime. I am a relatively new resident of West Hartford.
Where are you from?
Haddam, Connecticut. And instead of getting a welcome wagon to West Hartford, it was lock your doors, close your windows, and don't walk late at night by yourself. So supporting the blue is very important to me, and making sure that the residents and my neighbors, who are predominantly elderly, are feeling safe.
And are there certain issues that are most important to you?
Education. That's the number one that we've been having a lot of issues with, is education.
And what are the issues that are of particular interest to you?
Taxes, of course. But, the Board of Education and what they plan on doing for the kids of this town. So I like to make sure that the people that we elect are going to take all of that into consideration.
I was always big about the big national issues, but the local issues, the ones that hit close to home, are the ones that are the most important, especially as he grows up, and we brought him into the world, so we got to make it a better place.
Okay,
right.
Those are the issues. So you see that most people are talking about the general issues, and Chris, you've most recently been on the board, but those major issues do translate into other issues, and those are the things that you discuss when you're at the board meeting. So let's talk a little bit about the COVID money. How should that be spent? $25 million, $10 million of which went to the Board of Ed. What should you do with the $25 million? Opinion.
Yeah, I think the $25 million should be really reinvested back into the Bloomfield West Hartford Health District in terms of medical necessity, certainly helping our elderly, ensuring that we have full vaccinations. And again, keep in mind we're a service delivery organization, and how we apply that money should be really well spent to not only delivering proper healthcare delivery services, but also helping small businesses. Remember, 80% of the businesses across the country nationally are small business. So really helping those folks, get back up on their feet and recover from the pandemic. So it'd be good to get
am
Mike in.
sure that Chris has a different opinion.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily have a different opinion. It sounds like a lot of money, but our budget is, $300 million, and it jumps exponentially every single year. The average taxpayer now with 2 cars is paying over $10,000 in local taxes alone.
It's a lot.
So to me, I think the focus needs to be on getting a sustainable budget moving forward so that we don't have these constant increases.
So you think it should be in operating? It should be invested into operating because it's a one-time gift.
Right.
I'm calling it a gift.
Exactly, which we're going to pay for down the road.
Right.
But I think my point on what we should do with the money is I thought, given the hardships economically created by COVID, we should have given a tax break to our citizens who suffered economically during this period of time, so it can kind of absorb the tax increases.
So what I'm hearing, am I hearing that you sort of support the idea of giving checks to people, like to the citizens of West Hartford?
No, what I'm saying is that we could have used the COVID money and incorporated in our budget so that the people didn't have to pay the tax increase. And you could spread that out if you wanted to over the course of years.
Okay.
Can I just make one point here, just real quick, Mike,
Yes,
if you
of
wouldn't
course,
mind? Appreciate it. What's really interesting is during a COVID year, the council did a lot of work on the budget. I think there was a net increase of like 1.3%, and of an operating budget of about $300 million. And Lee Gold was the only one from the Republican side that supported the budget. And this is during a COVID year where, frankly, that kind of an increase was nominal, considering the cost of energy, the cost of, some of the fixed costs that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So again, no reflection, and I'm just talking in general. So when we talk about reinvesting that money back into the budget, it really should be reinvested back into its original intention, why it was given to us
Okay, well,
from a healthcare delivery.
That's
so,
an opinion.
I just want to let's be really clear about these increases here. I think a 1.3 during a COVID year is really a great job.
Well, when you're talking,
really a great
Michael,
job.
why don't you just
Yeah, I mean,
interrupt?
hump in. I think, a couple things that Steve said that are important. When we talk about where the money should go, let's talk about the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District. I think we were the first district to actually bring the vaccine to people in their house. So when other people were struggling to get it, the people that were the most vulnerable who couldn't get out to it, we went to them. So I think going forward, and I know there's a big debate on vaccination, but we got to make sure that the people who want to get it have access to it. I think when you talk about education, it's not just when they were homeschooling, how do we do this, getting the Chromebooks, it's also that there were kids that really haven't been in school for a year and a half. And we've got to think going forward, how are we going to get them up to speed if they struggled? Some kids did well, some kids didn't. I know when I was a student, if I was learning at home, it would have been a good experience for me. I wasn't in school.
And for your parents.
I definitely was a person.
For your parents.
Yes, at class.
I'm a parent.
Yep.
I know this.
But that's something that we have to talk about, is we have to invest into how are we going to get these kids up to speed. And let's again, we have one of the best education systems in the state, and we put a lot of kids into the top schools, into every school, and into vocational schools. It's just not going to college anymore.
So you would advocate putting that money where?
I would say
Back
into
into the
back
health
into the
system?
health system, back into the education, and let's also remember the first responders. I lived next to a nursing home, and during COVID, when they went into a nursing home, they had to get fully dressed up before they went in. That costs money to do, it takes time, and we got to remember the first responders. They did a great job taking care of our community during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. Pat, may I just respond to what
Sure,
Steve said?
sure.
So when Steve and the ACP and the Democrats talk about raising the budget, 1 or 2% like it's not a big deal, you're talking about $10 million annually. You're talking about exponential growth. And what it does is it de-incentivizes economic investment in our town. It also makes the town unaffordable for residents. And it's provable. So number one, for the first time in the town council's history this year, they approved a tax abatement for one park.
Yes.
Now, and the reason they did that was the developer said they could not afford to invest in West Hartford without that tax abatement because the taxes are too high, because they're growing exponentially. Residents, it's becoming unaffordable. The Democrat Party and the ACP acknowledge that. So what do? they passed something called accessory dwelling units, where people who feel like they're being priced out of their own home can put apartments in there.
Right, I think Ben
we're starting to
Winograd was
see,
a very big
yes, so we're
proponent of
starting to
that.
see the consequences of the exponential growth. And it's not something to be dismissed. It's very, very real. And the policies, it's sort of like a problem is being created, and then subsequent policies are being created to fix the initial problem.
So let's go back. You know, you mentioned a few things that were the accessory housing, which is really interesting. I want to talk about one park, because one park was a convent. It was there. It was big. It's huge, and it doesn't spin off any taxes. So real estate developers come, and in order for them to do something with the property, they invest, but they ask for abatements, for tax abatements. I think it was $1 million over 10 years. Should West Hartford be in the real estate business?
Well, I mean, it'd be really interesting to get Chris and Mike's perspective. I think, you know, tax abatements, I'm not a big fan of tax abatements, and I think certainly they should be used with very cautiously and, certainly with a lot of analysis around it. But I think at some point, you know, there may be certain situations where you need to create some economic development. You need to jumpstart that economic development. So how many lives are going to be living? I think it's like 300 units within that property. What does that mean for Park Road in terms of commerce and economic development? What does that mean, you know, in terms of overall tax, long-term tax opportunities?
So would you support it? Would ACP support something like that?
You know, I think initially I probably would not. And again, I probably am speaking out of turn for ACP, but probably not. But I think it's important that we look at all the angles and, you know, from an acceleration standpoint with economic development.
It's done. It's done.
Yeah.
And then you also have the Yukon property. Now, there seems to be a lot of secrecy around that Yukon property. I don't understand it. No one seems to know who bought it. How is that possible, Chris? You were just on the council.
Yes.
How is it possible that nobody knows who bought that property?
Well, there's issues with executive session and agreements with the developer and the town. So, you know, I can't disclose more than that in terms of what's going on with the Yukon property at this point in time. But I think the Yukon property informs the decision with respect to the town purchasing St. Bridget. I mean, that was an enormous expenditure, buying a building that either needs to be used as is or completely demolished and built anew. It really is prohibitively expensive to do renovation.
So they bought St. Bridget,
Yes.
so they are now in the real estate business.
100%. Just jumping back real quick to the tax abatement issue, the problem I had, so I voted for the two first iterations of the Park Road development. The part I had an issue with in terms of the tax abatement is when a developer comes to you and says, I can't afford to invest in your town unless you give me a tax abatement. When the town allows a tax abatement, they're allowing itself, right, to avoid confronting the issue, which is fiscal unsustainability, to allow for this development. So it's almost allowing a bad habit. And that's the problem I had with the tax abatement.
I understand that. What do you think about the bad habit, Michael Kroll? Because the Democrats pushed this through.
Yep, I think it's about inclusion. I think it's about growing our town. And I wouldn't say we're into real estate. We're about trying to bring the right developments into West Hartford and making sure we have a balance. That's one thing I'm proud of a lot of things that you've heard tonight, but the inclusion, diversity in West Hartford, those are things that I'm proud of. Park Road, when I was growing up, was a totally different neighborhood. It's got its own pride, it has its own center, and this is just one more part to it that's going to add to the value of West Hartford and bring more people to West Hartford, bring more business to West Hartford. And if you have to give a tax abatement to get that, as I think Steve has stated, he's not quite sure, but I think now he's starting to see the value in that, or the potential value in that.
Just to make sure, Counselor, I am not a fan of tax abatements, but I think there are certain circumstances
there are times and places
where you need to consider that. It's not an all or nothing. I think at the end of the day, it's about how do you attract economic development, how do you attract long-term growth and commitment around these special development districts and things like that. So
and West Hartford's done a good job bringing people in a bad economy. And we hear all about people leaving the state of Connecticut, but we see an increase here in West Hartford. So we are doing something right here. And we have Hartford, which is an amazing city right next door, and you can live in West Hartford, get all the services we provide, and still work for a company that hopefully will go back to work in Hartford in the next few
I
months.
want to tell you, I interviewed all these people, and everybody, you are correct, everybody loves to live in West Hartford. Every single person said that. I love living here. We had people from Hamden, from Norwalk, who moved here from New York. They all love being here. So I have one more little question, a little controversial thing here, and well, not that controversial, but so we're going to have cannabis. Cannabis has been voted, and they voted 2 stores. July 1, they can open. But what's not determined yet is where can you smoke cannabis? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Michael, you're smiling.
I'm smiling.
You like cannabis?
No, a long time ago, I wanted to be more involved in that because I think it should be legalized. I believe that that will take some of the criminal element out of it and also make it safer. As I think it was New Haven last year, we had the people getting the bad cannabis, and there was it fentanyl that was mixed? I might have the wrong drug, and it caused a lot of deaths. But the same point, I also am very concerned about the safety, and that was one of the things we heard talked about is criminal, and I'm afraid people will smoke and drive, and that's a concern to me.
So where should it be? Chris?
I'm not a fan of cannabis. I'm not a fan of that law. So as far away from schools, parks, residents.
And from you.
Yeah, as possible. I think it really needs to be treated with caution.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, being that I'm a conservative and I certainly didn't grow up around marijuana, I think you're seeing a national trend by the states. The problem is there's a conflict between state laws and the federal law, which, when you think about drug interdiction and things like that, I'm with Chris as well. I mean, I think we really need to study this. I'm all about, creating tax revenue opportunities. This is one that I'm a little uncertain of, only around enforcement and just how it could be pervasive to our community. Again, if you're smoking marijuana, that's your deal, and you can do it in the privacy of your home. But I'm just not exactly sure we want to make that a part of our.
And I would say I agree that this is someone's personal position. We've had medical marijuana for quite some time now, and honestly, with everything going on, I think if someone has a choice between medical marijuana or marijuana versus some of these opiates that they're getting addicted on, I think that's something that this helps address that. And again, I know the town council worked very hard on trying to choose the most appropriate place. And again, I trust our police department will do a good job trying to make sure that we still live in a safe community.
Yeah.
It needs to be studied pretty closely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everyone seems to have a reasonable approach to this. I don't see anybody jumping
I think
on
we decided on the same thing.
I think we did.
Yeah, I see. That's what I'm saying. So, well, gentlemen, it's really been a pleasure, and we don't know how the race is going to turn out. Of course, Michael has an opinion how it's going to turn out, but we don't really know. So I want to thank you all for being here.
Thanks for
Chris,
having us.
once again, thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And also for your service.
You bet. Thanks.
And Michael Kroll, thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure. And
Chris
thank you,
Williams,
Chris. Thank you, Steve.
thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Steve Adler.
All right.
So, and you've been watching election night here in West Hartford. I'm going to be leaving soon, and I'm going to be going to Republican headquarters. I think maybe I'll see you there, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to be going there, and I'll be reporting from there. And after this, my good friends from weha.com are going to take over this desk. John Lyons will be here, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Welcome to this special WeHa.com Roundtable presentation, Election 2021. I'm John Lyons, joined in studio and in the field by several folks tonight. Special co-host for tonight's show is Carl Lance. Carl is the current Vice President of the Communications and Legal Affairs Division of Connecticut Realtors and is the incoming 2022 First Vice President, excuse me. Our pundits tonight, sitting at the table with us, are for the Democrats, Dawn Ennis. Dawn is a member of the West Hartford Democratic Town Committee, 1st District, and hosts her own show right here on WHCI TV, Rise Up. From the Republican Party is outgoing Representative Chris Williams, who is the retiring Republican member of Town Council and a member of the Town Republican Town Committee as well. Finally, from a Connecticut party is attorney Thomas Rome. Thomas Rome has a fascinating history in both music and sports, including certification as an NBA league agent. His father was a delegate for 3 national elections, including Nixon in '72, Ford in '76, and Reagan in 1980. He also ran for governor in the state of Connecticut. In the field, we also have reporters, one for each party headquarters. From the A Connecticut Party headquarters is the managing editor of WeHa.com and my usual studio partner, Ronnie Newton. Over at the Republican headquarters is Pat Kazikoff. She's on her way there now. She's best known to viewers of WHCI for Shalom Hartford, which she produces and hosts at WHCI TV. In studio and out, Pat also works as editor, videographer, and on-location reporter for the station. Covering the Democrats is Rocky Holland, who aside from hosting Two Guys and a Lot of Wine here on WHCI, is the founder and administrator of the West Hartford Political Forum. We're going to be hearing from our field reporters throughout the night. Just a couple heads up for our viewers. The interviews are going to be slightly tape delayed. We've just got a little Wi-Fi lag, so we're taping the interviews in advance. They're going to run approximately 5 minutes after we tape them. So our first guest tonight, she's not here yet, but she's going to have the absentee ballot results when she gets here. Will be Essie LeBreau, but we're going to come back to that. Let's start with our pundits, Carl. You know, what are some of the issues that you feel resonated with the voters? Now, we've got no results yet. I think in the next hour, we're going to have a lot of results. But, Dawn, you know, what were you hearing out in the field? I know there was a lot of talk about crime, a lot of talk about taxes. What did you hear?
I think actually the biggest issue that people seem to be talking about is something that's also very big in Virginia right now. It's education. And it's about the future of education in West Hartford. That's also, of course, related to taxes. Nobody wants to pay higher taxes, but we all want services. So that seemed to be an issue across the board, across all 3 parties. Crime was certainly an issue that Mary Fay and some of the Republicans tried to make a bigger issue. But as I noted just on social media yesterday, the chief's own report said overall, crime is actually down 16%. There are spikes in crime. There are always spikes in crime. There's always going to be crime. And I trust our police department to do what is needed. I think the Democrats have offered a comprehensive plan for education and sensible services.
Did it resonate with the voters?
We'll see. As part of the West Hartford Democratic Committee, I made phone calls. And I spoke to 10 voters tonight. And all of them, except for one, said they voted all across row A all the way. One voter said, I voted mostly row A. So I think there might be some people who are voting either Republican or a Connecticut party tonight.
Well, it's going to be interesting to find out. We have some preliminary results from the Sedgwick district. It looks like the Republicans were strong there. The Democrats were strongest, but it looks like the Republicans were strong there. Obviously, we don't have official results yet. Very early numbers coming in. Chris, what about you? You've got your finger on the pulse. You attended your last council meeting a week and a half ago. What are some of the issues that you think are resonating with the voters?
Well, John, thanks for having me tonight. Really appreciate it. So to dovetail off what Dawn said, I do think taxes are always a concern for residents, and that's very much a local issue. I think that infrastructure is important here in West Hartford. You know, the North Main Street road diet is of concern to folks, paving roads, things like that. Things that maybe are not the most exciting. But I do think that crime was a concern for voters, and it was made a campaign issue. There's no doubt about it. But to me, Dawn's right, the actual amount of crime, right, has not increased. What has increased is the severity of the crime. And we've worked closely with Chief Riddick, in terms of how to deal with that. And I think that's important to folks because West Hartford has been known traditionally as a safe place, and people don't want to see concerns about carjackings and things of that nature. So I think that it was on the voters' mind. Was it the most important issue? I don't know.
It seems like a lot of the new crime is surrounding cars, and whether it's catalytic converter theft, whether it's a wheel theft, which seems to be rampant, or the car theft itself. And then the other thing is, it seems like there's more nuisance things that people are complaining about. The biggest thing that I've seen over the last 2 years is the increase in panhandling, certainly since the beginning of COVID. So it's tough because the day-to-day stuff I think can wear on you, but it's also, I think it's important, as you hit on, we got to make sure we're on the accurate statistics as well. So Tom, you're kind of jumping into this, helping out the ACP party. ACP, they had some ideas that some thought were extreme and some thought were not. I mean, we're sitting in the old, I think, Hall High School, certainly the old West Hartford High School, and one of their ideas to try to save money was, recombine the schools. They were split apart, I think, in the 1960s. How do you think that played with voters, some of the other issues that they brought up?
Well, as Dawn said, we'll see. I think the party is committed to a centrist solution, to borrow Joe Lieberman's phrase of his new book. Centrism, in my mind, is another word for decency. And I think what Lee Gold and his slate of candidates with the ACP have done is to try to bring people together. Lee, as former minority leader, as a Republican, was very good at that. He was good at creating dialogue on the council, and I think he will continue in that direction. On the issue of the high schools, I think he would strive for a consensus, try to be a consensus builder on the council once again. And so I don't know how the voters will react to that, whether they've had opportunity to absorb the message that Lee and the others may have been putting forth. And on the crime issue, the party has a definite idea about that, and that is to move toward community policing. Officers on the street, beat cops, which may sound
old school.
Old school, certainly, but it may be what the town needs.
If I can interject, though, we had the Connecticut Party, Lee Gold and Mark Merritt, on my show, and we talked to them about this whole idea of a mega school. And I'll tell you what I told them. When I mentioned this to another shopper at Big Y in Bishop's Corner, another shopper going by, another mom said, "That's crazy," because high schools are already so crowded and so big, it doesn't make sense to consolidate them. So I think that's an issue that actually is going to end up hurting the Connecticut Party.
What I heard, again, we're a small town, we don't have the money for that kind of polling, but I agree with you. I definitely think the idea of combining the schools didn't play well with the vast majority of people, even people without kids in the schools. So one thing I want to remind our viewers, and our panelists all know this because they're very heavily involved, but these are all volunteer positions that all of these people are trying to get elected into. They don't get paid. There's no big plan here. They're really just trying to do what's best for the town and best for the community, best for the citizens. So it's important. And to that vein, I tried to get out to a lot of the voting locations today, say hello, shake hands, and I was fortunate to be here at Town Hall when the Governor Lamont came by. And here's a really fun exchange that occurred between the governor, our Deputy Mayor Leon Davidoff, and our Mayor Sherry Cantor. But Lee Gold was there, and there were Republican representatives there, and it was a very fun, lighthearted moment. So, Jen, if you're ready, let's roll that tape.
Working mayor in the entire state of Connecticut. During this pandemic, Sherry was caring, she was empathetic, she led our community to be the best community in the state of Connecticut. She cared about our residents, our seniors, our business community, our school children. The voters of West Hartford, I am confident this evening, will re-elect Sherry with the highest vote total, and she will remain the mayor of our great town of West Hartford.
Woo! Yeah, right. No, I love Sherry Cantor. I hope everybody takes that to heart. Don't take a great mayor for granted. You've got a great mayor.
Thank you.
Well,
We
thank
have
you.
a great governor, and it has been such an honor to serve
with you and have your leadership in the state of Connecticut, actually, and navigating us through this pandemic.
All right, you ready?
Thank you so much. Okay.
We'll have
All
our
right.
dinner soon, okay?
All right.
And
Sounds
Michael,
good.
Thank you for coming
that's
back.
it.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank
Good
you,
to see you.
Governor.
Okay, we are doing a little bit of organizing here. We've got Essie LeBreau in studio, and we are going to, oh, I did give you that, give me that first page back, I'm sorry, Carl. And Essie hopefully has some, Essie, how are you? First of all, how are you doing? First of all, there's a congratulations in order. Big news that's not politically related. Delilah at 8 pounds.
13 ounces.
13 ounces.
Yes.
I didn't know they could come that big.
Yes.
What, arrived in the world, what, about 4 hours ago?
4:30. 4:30 this
So literally
afternoon.
4 hours
So
ago.
that was,
So
thank you,
beautiful.
thank you.
Congratulations. God bless
Thank
to
you.
you. God
So
bless to the parents of the beautiful
I've
baby.
been up all night, and
Are you driving to see the baby tonight? Or are you gonna,
tomorrow.
Okay,
Tomorrow.
good. So you're going to try to get some sleep tonight.
So-
Okay, so
elections keep you up all night anyway, so it's
we know you have preliminary numbers, but
Yeah.
I'm going to make people wait for a moment. I first
Okay.
want to hear from you. Let's talk about turnout. How was overall turnout?
as far as overall turnout. That's something you'd have to get from the registrars.
Okay.
I heard 17% earlier, around 3 o'clock
Right.
this
Yep.
afternoon,
Yep.
but the absentee ballots were very high. In the past, we've done between 800 and 900, and this year we issued 1,900. So that was a lot of absentee ballots, and out of that, 14 were counted, which gives us very close to a 90% return rate, which is great because it means people really paid attention and got their ballots in on time. So very happy about that.
It's nice. Well, it'll be nice to see if there's more engagement or if people are taking a breath after last year's craziness. But the absentees are certainly encouraging. That's really, really encouraging. Okay, so you have the absentee numbers at this point?
Yes, I do.
All right, big drum roll. I'm going to be
Now,
taking notes
let me
here.
just tell you, these are preliminary.
Yep.
They were printed off at the close of polls at 8 p.m.
Yep.
There still are outstanding about 88 absentee ballots and Election Day registration ballots.
Okay.
And so that's 88 of those, and obviously hand counts would be added to this.
Okay.
So right now, with the 8 p.m. count of absentees, Ben Winograd, 1174, Sherry Cantor, 1295, Leon Davidoff, 1190, Adrian Billings Smith, 1116, Carol Blanks, 1161, Liam Sweeney, 1193, Al Cortez, 258, Mary Fay, 302, Mark Zdanowicz, 276, David DeHaas, 29, Ronnie Carol Rodman, 135, Lee Gold, 257, Mark Merritt, 208, Richard Bush, 191, Aaron Sarwar, 46. And for the Board of Education,
Yep.
we have Lorna Thomas Farquharson, 1166. Taylor Nezarella, 1230. Deb Pollen, 1241. Gail Harris, 345. Ross Jacobs, 232.
And and what was Gail Harris again? I'm sorry.
345.
345. So what I'm seeing here, and again, these are very preliminary numbers, but same thing we're seeing at Sedgwick is that I think the Republicans are having a better night than perhaps some expected.
By a small margin, according to the absentee ballots.
Right, right. So.
And again, there's still 88 outstanding.
Yep, yep, understood, understood. Okay, all right. Essie, that's fantastic. Anything else to report? Any issues at the polls? Anything else to report at this time? Or
Everything went really well. It was quiet as far as I heard. It was, like I said, I'm really happy to see that the absentee ballots, people used the drop boxes, which was great. And I think that gave us the higher percentage, and that made a difference. Because in the past, we have issues with late ballots coming in because they're reliant on the post office.
Going under the door
or well, not under the door. We don't take under the door.
No, okay,
It has
okay.
to come in through the post office or a
Gotcha.
person or the drop boxes. So that has made a big difference, because in the past we've only had like 85, 82% return. So this is really good.
Okay, terrific. All right,
Very-
awesome.
I'm very happy.
I've scrawled your numbers down. I hope I have them. We'll probably refer back to them. And as I said, we've got Cedric as well. So we'll probably refer back. So, Essie, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Great.
God bless on the baby.
Thank you,
and
thank
go,
you.
Wherever you're going now, hopefully get some rest after a crazy few weeks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Election baby, grandbaby.
Yep. You'll never forget. So. So we do have reporters in the field, and we've got I believe we have queued up, we've got Rocky Holland with Adrian Billings Smith. So let's roll that tape. Taped a few minutes ago. And we're just waiting for that tape to roll here. We got a few ready to go here. Jen, if you need to toss it back to me.
Hi, here at the Gastro Park tonight, watching the results pour in from the local municipal election. With me now is Adrian Ace Billings Smith. Make all the Rocky and Adrian jokes that you want as we do this. How are you doing tonight, Adrian?
Doing great, thank you.
Do you prefer Ace?
I prefer either name.
Either name is good. May I ask where the Ace nickname came from?
Ace came from, actually my uncle, but years of playing basketball, college, and coaching.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I was once told to never play poker with someone who has the first name as the name of a major city. Would the same apply to someone named Ace?
I think so.
Probably so. We will not be establishing the poker game tonight. Okay, so how are you feeling about the election?
I'm feeling really good. I mean, we have a strong team. This leadership that I've joined on this slate has done an amazing job taking us through the pandemic, dealing with our education, keeping our town safe, continuing to build and move forward with infrastructure and development. So I feel pretty good about tonight, being a part of the team and getting my mission out there and my goals.
Definitely on a good team. The latest elections, last couple, have been a runaway for the Democrats. Feel as though it's going to happen again tonight?
I'm hoping.
Always having hope. All right. Ace, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say for everyone?
Thank you to all the voters today. We appreciate you guys getting out there and voting for us. We can't do it without you. Thanks so much.
Adrian Ace Billings Smith. Thank you so much.
All right, and then we've got, when you give me the word from the control room, we've got Ronnie Newton with Lee Gold of the A Connecticut Party. Okay, we can talk. Looking at the numbers. Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Newton, the managing editor of WeHa.com, and I'm coming to you from Ocho Cafe in Bishop's Corner in West Hartford, and we are here with Lee Gold. Lee is currently a member of the West Hartford Town Council, started off this current term as a member of the Republican Party, but changed to unaffiliated and helped resurrect a Connecticut Party. Tonight we're at a Connecticut Party headquarters where Lee and 3 other candidates are running for town council, and one candidate is running for Board of Education. Lee, what has it taken to get to this day?
It's been a lot of work, a lot of effort. We've knocked on a lot of doors, met a lot of people, and it's about education. There's been a lot of times through this process that, starting a new party, Ronnie, it was not easy. We resurrected a Connecticut Party of West Hartford, but it came with us the ability to communicate a new message, a message of fiscal responsibility and a socially inclusive message, and I think that's important. The voters of West Hartford, I think, have heard us for about 2 to 3 months. I think when we announced in May, and I think you were helpful in writing a great article about that. I really appreciate that. And so we are very fortunate to be able to give this party this message to the citizens of West Hartford?
So we don't have the results in yet, and we'll be talking to you again later when we do have the results. But after standing at a very variety of polling places today, since very early this morning, I understand, how do you feel about the way the election day has gone?
I think it's gone in a very positive way. Starting at about 5:50 in the morning over at KP, it was cold. I got some great advice from some fellow council people who've been on this train for a long time to stand on the pavement, not the grass, because your feet will get too cold. So that was some great advice. But everybody came up to me, asked questions. I know my other candidates in our party, Mark Merritt, Rick Bush, Ryan Rodman, and Ross Jacobs for Board of Ed, they all were met with a lot of enthusiasm by the voters here in West Hartford.
Well, we're going to be talking to those other candidates tonight as well, and we'll definitely have you back on the air once we start hearing the results. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Lee Gold. So, Dawn, you started when we were watching the video. You had some thoughts. What's on your mind?
Blown away.
Okay.
There are a couple of big things here. I thought coming in that this story would not be about how Democrats won because of how well they lead, which is what I expected to happen. I expect Democrats to win in a Democratic majority town, but I also expected that a Connecticut party and its voters were going to send a message to Connecticut Republicans, to the state GOP, to the national GOP, and say that we reject Donald Trump, and we reject Donald Trump and his platforms of division. And it seems so far that the Republicans, based on the counts we just heard from Essie, are doing much better.
It's early, but I admit I'm surprised too.
And I was happy to see Ben Winograd get so many votes. He's a long-serving council member, a friend, and a real neighbor, a guy who you can call on. Liam Sweeney, Ace Billing-Smith, so great to see her, I think, make the council. I think it's going to be a good council, but I tell you, I'm surprised.
Yeah, let's hear from the Republicans.
Sure, John.
Chris, I mean, it's early.
Yeah.
We've got 8 more districts to go. The numbers we have are preliminary.
And I do expect the 8 Connecticut party to do a little bit better in some of the other districts that we don't have the numbers from. But the strong showing says a lot, and I take a little bit of a different approach to it, at least how I interpret it, than Dawn does. Having served here for 6 years as a Republican, I see folks at CVS, at the grocery store, so forth and so on. A lot of them I disagree with politically. I've been a minority member of the council for 6 years now. But we get along, they know my personality, they know my priorities, and I think that the results tonight may suggest that locally at least, the people who support the Republican Party are supporting the principles of that party, rather than a candidate who's not on the ballot here.
All right, so let me push back. Okay, I haven't had a chance to interview you because you're an outgoing member. I have interviewed Mary. I have interviewed Al. I haven't gotten to talk to Mark Zandenowitz yet on camera. And it really struck me that they were striving for the middle. And to me, the Trump Republican, and again, I don't live in Kentucky. I don't live in Tennessee. So I don't see what they see down there. But the Trump Republican is something far more to the right. And I don't see that. I see, lots of candidates here. Let's leave the Democrats out of this. I saw, 2 independents, 4 ACP, I'm forgetting Ronnie, and 3 Republicans. So 9 candidates striving and trying to take that middle space. How does that function with being a true Republican today?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Republican today?
Yeah. So, and I think the definition might be different for different areas.
Sure. So for me, to me, being a Republican means small government. Okay, you can throw away that line. What does it really mean? It looks for efficiency, right? It looks to lessen the tax burden. It looks to prioritize spending that goes to affordability. That's what I think being a Republican is. I think being a Republican is focused upon understanding that folks have rights, and that our rights come from a creator, not government. And so when you see government overreach, you think that it infringes upon rights. All this stuff sounds very academic, but it's true. It's what I believe. And I think being a Republican is a set of priorities instead of policies, and it's not idolatry. So that's my response. It sounds academic, but it's what I believe.
I get it.
I will say, in your defense, and I don't need to defend you, both Liam Sweeney and Ben Winograd, when I interviewed them in an episode of Rise Up, they both cited you as an example of what they wish the Republicans were. And they were sorry to see you go because they found you to be willing to compromise, to willing to put the voters and the residents of West Hartford first. And unfortunately, the people you leave behind on the GOP remain the party of no. And as long as they're the party of no, I don't think the Republicans have much of a future except to be the also ran.
So may I respond?
Yeah, and then I'm going to jump in.
So it's first of all, I appreciate the compliment, as an aside. But I think, from my position in being on the town council, is I think sometimes no is going to ultimately lead to better policy. So here's my example: the mill rate in West Hartford is extremely high, and we also have high property values. That is an anomaly in the state of Connecticut. Normally, you have either high mill rate, low property values, or vice versa. And what I always thought was going to happen is you're going to see critical mass where the spending adversely impacts residential property values and also discourages investment. And when we start giving out things like tax abatements for one park, which I voted for twice before the tax abatement piece, I think you're starting to see a recognition that the budget trajectory is disincentivizing investment in the community. And so when I do think saying no to certain policies may be useful long term. That's always been my thought. And it sounds a little complex, but I do think on certain issues saying no matters and holding that line.
Understood. I've got, not going to name the contact, but a contact with ACP has sent me a message, and there, as he put it, it's not looking good. So it looks like, and again, we don't have any other numbers yet. Hopefully Jen will be able to get some numbers into us soon, but I think things are not looking good. And yeah, again, all I can do is express surprise. So we got more interviews queued up. I've got, I believe I've got, bear with me a second. I've got Ben Winograd and Rocky Holland. Do you want to run that one, Jen?
There's the governor.
Yeah, that was before. That was a fun little clip. Shows that people can get along in politics.
All right, and welcome back. Ben, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Sure, thank you for having me.
All right, so it's been a long election season. You've been out there pounding the pavements. How do you feel about your guys' chances tonight?
Well, I think the results are coming in, and we're being reelected, which is fantastic.
Clearly, you guys have a message that resonates with the West Hartford town folks, because the last few elections you've definitely run away with. So I would be hard pressed to believe that anything else would happen tonight. So, still breathing a sigh of relief as you watch the results come in, I would imagine.
Well, it's nice to be done with it. I mean, we all worked really hard. But listen, I love this season. I love not talking to voters. I love knocking on doors. We don't usually do that, except at election time. And it's really been great talking to people, and I'm really gratified for the support West Hartford citizens have given us again.
So you've been on council since, what, 15, I believe?
Since 15, that's right.
Okay, so this last election cycle, we're going around knocking on doors. Being that the pandemic has kind of dominated our lives, did you find that there was sort of a melancholy feel to the town folk, or are they in pretty good spirits? What's going on out there?
No, I think people were actually in pretty good spirits. Lots of enthusiasm, lots of... I think fewer issues than in the past. We had a lot less people complaining about taxes and more people who wanted to talk about COVID. And I don't think that's a reflection of anything other than where people are thinking these days. We all got through this together, and I think that's what people want to talk about.
And if they happen to have an accessory dwelling on their house, I believe that they can thank you for that, correct?
Yep, and I definitely spread the word a little bit about that as well.
Okay, so moving forward, what are you hoping to do? Should you guys continue to pull ahead as you're doing, what are you hoping to do for this next term?
Well, I think obviously the priority is building back, right? I mean, we still are not through COVID. We have to continue to do so. We've got some great economic development going. I think we do need to continue to look at zoning and make sure we're still modernizing our system so we can really encourage more people to come to town.
Sounds really good. All right, Ben Winograd, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so we've got some more numbers. I'm going to read them. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible. I've got every district except absentee and town hall. Again, these are not official, but they are what are being reported from the precincts and what are being reported at the party headquarters. The Democrats The 6 Democrats own the top 6 spots in vote count, not including absentee, but we've already done absentee. We know that adds to their lead, and not including town hall. Everything else is reported. The next 3 spots go to the Republicans. And that looks like, right now it's looking like Mary Fay, Mark, I want to make sure I'm getting this right, Zdanowicz and and Al Cortez. Lee Gold right now is in about 150 votes behind 9th place, so he's looking at coming in 10th place right now. So we are looking possibly at 3 new councilors, including Adrian Smith. Again, still 2 precincts to vote, to report. But, Tom, I'm going to pivot to you here. Obviously, candidly, not what I was expecting. Dawn very honestly said not what she was expecting.
No.
Tough night so far.
Well, I think the strong showing by the Republicans may show that the culture wars, the national culture wars, are not that that important here in a town like West Hartford, where we do have an inclusive community, where we do have reasonable people who can solve local problems. And so I think that's something that the A Connecticut Party may not have counted on. We probably thought, the party probably thought that people would be tired of what the National Party has become, and that would have a greater impact here. I'm sure that was the expectation.
I think, admittedly, was this going to be a true repudiation, and to your point, not of Trumpism, but of maybe somewhat old-fashioned republicanism, more moderate republicanism. And we're not seeing that. Back to my point earlier, everybody's striving for the middle. I wasn't sure the Republicans' message was effective here. It was effective. It certainly looks like it was effective.
And one thing that popped into my head as I heard the numbers was that A Connecticut Party may have, as independent parties do, may have pushed the established party closer to where their own values stand. So in that sense, there's a vindication of their ideas.
Well, I was going to say too, John and I were talking before the show saying all of these folks that are running, as you said, are volunteer leaders, and they're all our neighbors. I mean, we were just saying that all of us that voted today are probably neighbors with someone that's on one of the tickets. And that certainly takes away from the national stage and even state politics. When you're looking at somebody whose kids go to school with your kids, or play on the sports team, or you do some sort of league with them, or whatever it might be, those people personally, it's quite a bit different than voting outside of the box for somebody that you don't know personally.
I'll also say that if the results that we're seeing so far hold up, it's a testament to West Hartford's diversity. I mean, here we are 4 white people, but we have now 2 members of the people of color community, 2 black women on the council, it looks like. We have Beth Kerrigan leaving as an out lesbian, and Ace Billing Smith is lesbian. So the LGBT community sees someone like them represented. And for white conservatives, they have their people who they want to see represented in government. So I think that, if anything, this is a endorsement of West Hartford's diversity.
I think Mary particularly is going to face a challenge to try to. She needs to work better. I think it just strikes me that she's now effectively going to be the minority leader, barring a shocking change. Unless something shocking changes, we're looking at Mary being the minority leader. Is she going, to your point, going to be just the no person for the sake of being no, or is she going to be able to show that she can work across the aisle as Lee did, and really effectively, and you too, Chris, with the Democrats? And I didn't pull your numbers, but I looked at Lee's numbers, and he voted with the Democrats, well over 80% of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. I mean, most of our votes are zoning votes or applications, and a lot of times there is agreement. A lot of our votes, I don't know what Essie would say, are unanimous. But it's these bigger issues where sometimes, not bigger issues, the issues that get more political attention when there starts to be some deviation. And I think that this last term was very difficult to build consensus because we're all remote for a lot of it. Then we had the fraction within the Republican Party with Lee leaving the party. So I think, listen, if the results pan out as they're looking right now, there's a new beginning, in person, Mary has a new responsibility, and I'm hopeful that that will lay the foundation for a really positive term for the town.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, last council meeting, she's pounding the desk, she's pushing. Even the other Republicans thought this crime proposal that she came up with should go to the committee like every other proposal.
But Dawn, here's the end of the day. It resonated. It
Yeah.
resonated. You can't argue
But
the result.
You can't beat fear. Fear is something that people love to hear.
No question. No question. So Ronnie is going to come on live with us briefly. We're going to get her by audio. If any of you want to ask a question, I'll probably have to relay it just for sound reasons, but we're going to give her a quick call. She's going to give us kind of the mood, which I think we can kind of imagine.
Hold it close to your mic.
But, yeah.
Hey, John.
Hi, Ronnie. You're live on the air, WHCI, the WeHa Roundtable. Thank you for coming on. Talk to us a little bit about the mood over there. I mean, what's going on?
So it's a little hard to hear. There was just a birthday party for somebody here in the restaurant. The mood is fairly subdued. I think people seem pretty surprised at the numbers they're seeing. We don't have the final numbers. I don't see the absentee ballot votes.
Absentees are trending the same way. I'll send you a copy at some point, but the absentees are trending the same way. Democrats top 6, Republicans next 3, and then the ACP.
So are any of the races close enough to trigger an
No.
automatic recount?
No. No.
So what about Board of Education?
Board of Ed, I only have absentee, but pretty much as expected in terms of the Democrats, and then I think the Republicans had the next spot or spots. I didn't write the numbers down, but Essie gave them to us a little while ago on air.
So there were 3. You could vote for 3 candidates, and there are 4 open seats plus the seat that Jason Chang was taking to continue his 2-year term, and he was running unopposed for that.
Right.
So it's really just there are 2 new candidates and 2 incumbents.
Right, and I think.
I'm sorry, 3 new candidates.
And it was the ACP. ACP had a Board of Ed, right?
One
Board of Ed. Yeah, that person was trailing. That person was in last place.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, Ronnie, I mean, give us a little feel for your, we're sitting in the studio, frankly, all of us really surprised at this. I mean, to a person. Are you feeling the same way? Is the mood there? Is there kind of shock over what we're seeing?
It really is. It really is shock. I think that they were fairly confident they'd keep at least 1 seat, if not pick up another seat. At least 1 other seat, and there was a lot of optimism. Maybe, I don't even know what time it is. It's 9 o'clock, so about 45 minutes ago when I got here, before the numbers started coming in, there was a lot of optimism. And as they started coming in, there really was shock, but I think what the candidates have said, and we'll get them on for some interviews later, is that they did the best that they could. They just don't have the backing of a party behind them. They don't have that, machine is probably the wrong word to use, but they don't have that core base. And
now, Ronnie, just the control room's asking me. I just want to make sure you sent me the results I saw from the districts. Those are final results from the districts, right? That are missing town hall and missing absentee, right?
I didn't send you that, did I?
Oh, somebody sent me that. Hang on, let me see who sent me that now. No, it wasn't you. I'm sorry. Yeah, somebody.
I sent you town hall.
Okay.
We had town hall.
Okay, I've got to look back. So I'm getting word from the control room that some of these numbers are either low or premature. So again, preliminary numbers. We still have a lot to come in. So Ronnie, we're going to sign off. I'll check in with you. Oh, we got a question from Dawn Ennis.
Ronnie's doing a great job. Can she ask about the school issue and whether she thinks or they will talk about whether that hurt them tonight?
When you do another interview, or what's your take on the school issue? do you think that hurt them, their discussion of combining the two high schools?
Yeah, I have not asked that question, but I will ask that question.
Okay, yeah, see if you can get, we had you with Lee, do you have any other interviews in already?
I do not have them done.
Okay, okay. All right, yeah, see if you
They
can
keep
grab.
wandering away.
Yeah, see if you can grab Mark or Rick, and let's talk about the schools, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Will do.
Talk to you in a bit. Bye.
She's doing a great job.
Absolutely.
So anyway, a little impromptu. So, okay, so I've got to look back here. It's really tough because I've got a lot of stuff coming in and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. But I did get a sheet here. And it's tough. I'm working off text here and I was trying to read you the numbers, but
You need a teenager.
yeah, I know, exactly right. I need teenage eyes, but hang on, sorry. Here we go. Well, we're gonna. Somebody sent me a sheet.
I saw the sheet that you were looking at when you were looking at it.
I know, yeah, and now it's driving me crazy. Oh, here we go. Okay, it came from Rocky Holland. So from Rocky, okay. So we're gonna have to go live with Rocky because we need to make sure we're communicating our information to you guys and to those. So we're gonna give Rocky. Don, kill some time here. Talk to us a little bit. Tell us what are your other thoughts on this?
The other thing that I thought, besides Mary Fay's campaign, let's just say Mary Fay's campaign, because I think she, among the Republicans, was more focused on crime than other candidates, was that she was always a purple candidate. She was always the candidate who wasn't just a Republican, but was trying to be a social liberal or social moderate, maybe. I think that shifted after January 6th. She seemed very defensive and very much in the camp of supporting those who questioned the Republicans and questioned the insurrection. And I thought that would have turned people off, but it doesn't seem to have resonated here in West Hartford. Maybe you have a thought about that?
Well, I mean, my thought is, in terms of the crime position with Mary, I think it's a issue she genuinely cares about. And when there was incidents of violence, it seemed to really impact her. And I think that's why she focused on it. And in doing so, I think it clearly had a political impact, clearly.
A benefit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But, you know, in terms of, I've served with Mary for 4 years, and Mary's Mary. So, you know, and I mean, you know, and so I have not seen a shift in response to political events outside of West Hartford. She has been who she is, in my view, my time serving with her.
Okay. I stand opposed, but that's...
No, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely fine.
I had an interview with Mary in which she didn't show up, so I interviewed her chair. Tonight, on my way in, she tried to run me down. But that's just all, you know, gossip. Let's not talk about that. John, for me, I think that if the Republicans hold this secondary position in West Hartford, I think it will shape the future because it means that a Connecticut party or other third parties, even David DeHaas, really don't stand much of a chance. I think that's sort of sad in a way. I would like to see more people get involved in politics. I mean, I don't want to have like 17 parties, but it would be nice to have more diversity. And it seems as if I think people are really tired of politics, to be honest.
You know what? It's funny, Don. If things play out the way they look to be, I wonder if the manner in which the A Connecticut Party was formed hurt them. In other words, switching parties in the middle of a term, the GOP chair leaving the party and the next day announcing. I think that turned a lot of people off. I think it also hurt people's feelings. I know a lot of people who felt betrayed. And so maybe if there's going to be an experiment like this again, if it was done a little bit differently, maybe it would have better results. I don't know, but just a thought.
Well, we did have people in the 2019 election who broke away from the Democrats, who also didn't do well.
Right, that's right.
You know, for the Working Party. But at the same time, I think that whenever you leave a group, there are going to be people who feel like you betrayed them. And I think that's a really great analysis, Chris.
Thank you. It was very interesting because Ronnie and I, you know, we do the roundtable every week or so. Okay, I'm now being cleared by the party headquarters to call 6 races.
Which party?
The Democrats. Okay. So we are going to call, we're not going to call positions because we don't know total vote counts, but we will call winners. We're calling Sherry Cantor a winner. We're calling Leon Davidoff as having won his re-election. We're calling Liam Sweeney as having won re-election, not in any particular order here. We're calling Ben Winograd who has won re-election. We are calling Carol Blanks, who has won re-election, and we are calling Adrian Ace Billings Smith, who has won her first term on council. So we do have breaking news. Let's get the instant reaction, Don. That's why you're here.
Well, I'm wearing my little Ace button, but I will tell you this. No one in this town has done more for the voiceless, for those people who have never really felt represented than Ace Billings Smith. From Juneteenth to Unity Green to community of color, she is someone who stood apart and put her own. She's a flight attendant and a lawyer. How she find the time, I have no idea. Plus, she's a mom. How she does this is beyond me, but this is the kind of person we need in West Hartford. As you said, it's a volunteer job, and I'm very pleased to see that the rest of our slate has all won re-election and that Ace is in. That's great news.
When I was speaking with Ace earlier at one of the poll standing locations, and the comment I make, I've always said my favorite politician is one that can balance activism with policy making. And you get people, and I hearken back to Janae Wood 2 years ago. Very much the activist didn't at least have time to prove herself as a policymaker. Not saying she's not one, but Adrian was incredible on both fronts. A true activist and yet understood policy, understood how policy worked, and was able to combine the two better than a whole lot of people in this town.
You watch Janae. She's not done.
Oh, I know that. I don't think for a second Janae's done. She's a rock star.
And the thing I want to tell my fellow Democrats is, we're coming for you. All you old white men, I'm sorry.
Hey, easy. I resemble that remark.
Hey, all I'm saying is, it's time for change. And this is the slate that I think will bring change. And I'm here to say I'm part of that too. I happen to be transgender, but that's the most fifth interesting thing about me. It's not what defines me. What Democrats are all about is representing those people who don't get a voice. And that's what I think the Democrats are doing in resonating with the voters this year. But let's see what happens. It's not done yet. Still have the Board of Ed, right?
Still have the Board of Ed. So I'm losing track of what we've got, Jen, but do we have a couple more interviews ready to go? You can roll one and take it from there. I think Rocky's got a couple more.
And no offense to anyone who's an old man, a white man, or a man.
Well, it's
we all consider ourselves young.
That's it. There you go. Me too.
From the control room, if we're going to run a video here. Place is falling apart.
I did not do that.
Jessica, how you doing over there? Say hi to the viewers.
Hello.
Give them a big hello. Come on.
Hello, I'm here with Al Cortez from Republican headquarters at Beachland Tavern. So what's in your mind, Al?
It's exciting. This is like our Super Bowl, every year. So I'm feeling great. I can't wait to, see what the outcome is. We put a lot of work, we left it all on the floor, and now just sit back and see how we're received by the community.
So this is the second time that you've run, and you're running for the Republican. It's not exactly the party of choice in Connecticut. Must pose some challenges for you.
Absolutely. It's an uphill battle. The easy thing for me would have been to, step away. But I think, if we want to address any issues going on and fix the Republican Party, we got to do it within. So this is a great opportunity. I'm not one to take the easy way out. So, it's a fight, and it's a fight for all the right reasons.
You know what some of the numbers look like now?
I know they're pretty tight and all over the place. I know it's not a clean sweep. And I'm kind of teetering. Some numbers have me, making it, some don't. So it's going to be a tight race, as expected. But it's exciting either way.
What's the last thing you want to leave the viewers of West Hartford with?
I just want the viewers to know that, they feel like the tomorrow. I'm going to do my best to give a voice to those who often get forgotten. The most vulnerable. That's what I know how it is to be in those positions. I have families that are, in those positions right now, and a lot of our decisions sometimes impact them. So I will do whatever I can to represent all of West Hartford, especially those that can't speak for themselves.
So thank you very much, Al. We're talking, my name is Pat Kazakoff, and we're talking live from Beachland Tavern for WHCI.
All right, the mood over at Republican headquarters. Thank you, Pat Kazakoff. Obviously, very, very good. Don, you brought up a good point, which I'll explain while we're watching the video. That the reason why I'm calling races and not position is there will be a caucus. So the Democrats now have been officially, we've called the races, are officially reelected. They will have a caucus and decide who the mayor will be, who the deputy mayor will be. I don't expect any surprises on this front at all. Do you?
Not this time, no. I think a lot of people were surprised when
Right.
Leon became deputy mayor and Beth was passed over. But at the same time, it wasn't the first time they had not gone by the vote count, so that was their excuse. I think Beth and a lot of other people were surprised at that.
Yep.
But Leon's done a great job as deputy mayor, and I expect him to continue to do a great job. And now we have just those empty seats to fill.
The last 2 years are the kind of years that get roads, highways, and bridges named after you. It was that rough. I mean, I get the good fortune, I'm talking to Mayor Cantor a lot, off the record, and to say she was working 70 and 80-hour weeks is probably an understatement. I mean, just the amount of effort she's put in to get us through this COVID crisis and some of the other things that are going on. I mean, it's quite impressive. So I'd be hugely shocked if she's not reelected by the caucus.
Sherry Cantor is a powerful force, despite her size. Don't estimate her by her size. When I visited Yukon, because President Biden came to town, and I was part of the White House traveling press pool, wasn't surprised to see Sherry Cantor sitting in the second row in front of President Biden. That's the kind of pull she has.
In front of President Biden?
Well,
Biden was making the speech.
And she was sitting there in the second row.
Okay, I thought when you said in front, I thought Biden was a row behind her. That would have been impressive.
That would have been better. Give her time. Give her time.
She will get there.
Biden's second term.
Give her enough time. She will get there.
I think she's more dedicated to West Hartford than any mayor I've ever known.
So we do have, I don't know if we have it yet, the control room can let me know, but we do have Sherry's victory speech coming. I understand we're grabbing that. Do we have any other interview? Nope, I'm getting head shakes right now. So,
not yet.
All right, so let's talk about some of the issues. Let's put COVID somewhat in the rearview mirror. I think by any rational, objective view, the governor and the mayor have handled COVID very, very well. A very high percentage of the town is vaccinated. They put the mask mandate in place when the percentage of positive tests creeps over a certain amount. Being managed well. We're not wearing masks today because we're somewhere 1.5% or 2% of people being tested are coming back positive. So we've got some challenges. We talked about crime. We talked about taxes. Let's talk about probably one of the less interesting topics, but it's a big one over the next 2 years. There's a big dump that's closing down in, I think, East Hartford, where a lot of our trash goes. Let's talk about trash. You've got your finger on the pulse on that subject, Chris, because obviously, an outgoing councilman, big expense. We're trying to save money. Do we go to once every other week trash collection? Like, what are the answers here?
So yeah, that's a big question. A lot of it is interplay. There's interplay there with the state and what the state's going to do in terms of its facilities, maintaining them, expanding them, or closing them down. So to a degree, we're at the mercy of the state. One of the plans that was floated some years ago was this pay-to-throw concept.
Yep,
where
the smart bag.
Exactly right. The concept being, you purchase a municipally approved garbage bag at a local grocery store. You put your trash in that bag, and then every week or so, the trash truck comes up and picks it up. And it's a way of taking the trash cost of trash pickup off the town ledger and putting it on to the taxpayer. The idea being that it will inspire people to be more efficient in terms of what they throw out. They'll be more inclined to recycle, more inclined to compost, to reduce their overall trash, and given the critical mass issue we have with the dumps, that's a policy issue. It's extremely politically unpopular.
Yeah, so much for less government, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was extremely politically unpopular, and it died. And so that's an issue I think that the town is going to have to navigate, certainly in conjunction with the state. I don't think it can do it alone.
I think So I think that it's all related. You know, we've gotten through the long-term healthcare and retirement obligations. You know, we had the bond offering, but I think the two biggest issues facing the town, and one is the 800-pound elephant. That's sewage, obviously with the MDC, and then trash, all kind of related. You know, we don't have Rick in studio. Obviously, we're going to have Rick on. He's a member of the, Rick Bush, who's a member of the board of directors for the MDC. But, you know, we learned with these crazy storms we had this past summer and last summer, we've got some major, you know, both street sewage and, you know, sewage. I'm not sure what the term is for that.
Mhm.
How do we handle that? I mean, do you have, you know, were you involved in any discussions on that?
Yeah, so the
I
town.
know it's a big price tag.
Yeah, I mean, it's an enormous price tag, and the town is dealing with consultants in the state in terms of developing an overall plan to approach it. I think what you're going to have to see is certainly a phased plan. There's no other way to do it. It's going to be an enormous investment in terms of bonding, but I think that the town is going to look strongly to the state and federal government to help share those costs.
We've got Pat Kazikoff with Mark Zdanowicz, and we don't have the final numbers on the Republicans yet, but we do have Pat with Mark. Jen, when you're ready, roll it. No worries.
I need to elevate our hold music right now.
Yeah, exactly. They have great intro music. Intro music is, you know, it's like gravitas.
It was.
Busy day, but a very nice, enjoyable day.
Well, so you were with the Board of Ed, and now you transferred over, so this is your first foray into a town council. Is there a difference?
Yeah, there is a difference. I mean, you know, the school board, which I've served on for the last 9 years, you know, exclusively deals with a lot of these things going on in the school, and their curriculum and policy and budgets. The one thing that is very, very similar is the budget, because we do it by line item, and it's a municipal budget, so that I understand very well. It's just a matter of shifting focus, you know, from schools to town, and I hope tonight the results are good and that I can do that. And we're hoping. I got my family here, and we're just waiting on results still.
So you what made you switch from the Board of Ed to the town council?
Well, after 9 years, the Board of Ed, it's kind of my passion. I have 3 kids in the school system, one that's at UConn now. So it's been a passion, my 3 kids going through the school. I thought that, you know, with all these parties merging together for really essentially these 3 seats, because that's kind of what it goes down to these days, is that I thought I'd throw my name in the hat and really try to do the hard work and get out there and try to get some name recognition, and hopefully that works today. So it was something that, you know, I've done the Board of Ed. I just kind of want to take my skill set and go to the town council, and hopefully tonight we'll find out. So.
Well, I hope we do find out, and I hope things work out well.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm chomping on the bit right now, waiting for results. So it's kind of like a kid in a candy store, and just can't wait. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Pat. Greatly appreciate it. We've got numbers again. I don't know what this excludes other than absentee, but right now it looks like Cortez is in by 107. So legal trails Al Cortez by 107 votes townwide. So that's as of 2 or 3 minutes ago. The count continues. We continue to go on. We do have speeches. This is a longer video clip if anyone wants to take a quick break. But we've got the speeches from the Democratic headquarters, which is over at Gastro Park. So Jen, when you're ready, we can roll the victory speeches over at the Democratic HQ. We're not ready? Let me know. Okay, no worries.
Is 17% turnout historic?
It's higher. No. It's higher than that. 17 was as of 4:30 this afternoon. Ronnie did a report, so it's higher than that. I think the X factor was absentees. I think it seemed a little bit lower because we had so many more absentee ballots. I don't think these numbers are going to be too far off the normal. Essie did not yet have that data when we had her in.
And that's
so.
still one effect of the COVID pandemic. People are still preferring not to have to go in person somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean the absentee. The only difference, I guess, this year is you had to apply to get the absentee ballot. 2 years ago, you did not have to go through the application process. They waived the application process. So, but it's very complicated. I'll tell you. You know, we have these conversations. Originally, they were going to count the absentees tomorrow. And then Essie convinced the registrars to do all that came in through yesterday, today, and then it looked like the workload was manageable, so they were able to count everything today, other than the 88 that she mentioned. But it sounds like 88's not going to swing anything. Any word? All righty, let's roll it. Okay, thanks, Jen.
I need to be.
Sherry, you gotta stand.
You
gotta stand.
Yes.
You gotta stand. One more.
So I'm going to start, but none of us do any of this alone. As we all know, the town committee, without the town committee, we wouldn't be entering, and this is from Harry Captain, I have to give credit where credit is due, the third decade of Democratic leadership in this town of West Hartford. That's town committee work, and the great work that each elected, Democratic elected official has done. They have worked so hard to give the town their best, and I see it every day with my colleagues. So I am so proud of the work that has come before me, and the work that we currently did, and the work we're going to do in the future. I am really, I first have to start by thanking my my dear husband, who is an incredible partner and supporter. Without our family support, we can't. Our kids are, and I am so blessed to have my oldest son, Joshua, here, who actually was one of my first, I think, campaign sort of managers. And Josh was in 10th grade when I started serving on the council. I would walk out the door and I'd say, "Feed your younger brothers." I'll be home soon, and I wouldn't be home soon. No, but really, I mean, Josh, you have been my rock, and I really appreciate that, everything that you have done to support me and everything. My second son, Sam, is a musician. He'll be here on Thursday night at actually New Park Brewing. So you're great. Oh my God. 7 o'clock. Always mom. Here's a Michael. Okay. My third son, Ben, who has been also, I mean, part of the team and part of the support and everything, and I just want to thank you so much. His girlfriend, third district town committee member, his girlfriend Trish, who has just also been an incredible supporter. I'm so grateful for everything that you have done. And my youngest son, Jacob, has been an inspiration always, and he actually worked so closely. I remember the strong feelings and respect that he had for Tammy Exum so early on, because he had fought so hard to eliminate the mascot visuals when he was president of Hall High School. And his working on that, understanding the political process and so much that goes behind it, I think he had an appreciation for, wow, when you think something's right, everybody's going to buy in, and you can just move forward and not understand how complicated those things are. So again, that's my inner team, and I couldn't do it without my nuclear family and all the amazing work that you've done. I'm just going to then go my campaign chair, Marissa Ryder. Next year, but my nephew Max Beatty, who's be a real, and really shared in all that. I also have one of my past treasurer, Adam Berkowitz, is here too. Thanks, Adam. Shout out. We really have such incredible leadership. I talked about the town committee, but the structure and the organization that this team had that was really led by Tiffany and Peter. John is the backbone, but Michael's going to... Thank you so much. I know you'll party in a minute. Anyway, but Tiffany and Peter really gave us all the structure, as John said, to do that base election. And what that base election says is that our community, our Democrats, know that we're doing a great job at what we do, and they're happy with the way the town is run. And that is all of my colleagues here that have helped me work so hard to get us through a really, really challenging and difficult time through the town. So I am so grateful for all of that. And the teamwork that we have with our state reps, our state senate, our delegation in the governor's office. I mean, all of that makes us stronger and better. So I want to bring up my team. Everybody should come up. I think we'll start with Leon, Liam, Ben, Carol, and Adrian coming up.
Okay, we're going to jump out of that. So here's what's going to happen. We've got 2 more races to call. Then we're going to show the rest of the Democrat. We're going to call it a night. We're going to air the rest of the speeches from Democratic headquarters. We're going to try to get one more live from Ronnie if we can. We're not sure if we can at this point, but we're trying. So we are calling 2 races right now. We are calling re-elected to town council, Mary Fay, and elected to his first term on town council, Mark Zdanowicz. So let's get instant reaction. Chris, we're going to go back to you. Talk to us instant reaction.
I just think it's a good result for the town because I think you're going to have a good, strong opposition party to Democrats, which I think ultimately leads to better policy. And so I think overall this is a good thing for the town.
And I would say that Mary definitely has her constituency, and they turned out for her.
They did, and it's a quiet constituency, but they did turn out for her.
Unlike Mary.
Yeah, it's you know what? In this business, if you're going to run for office, you have to be vocal.
Oh,
I've
seen that firsthand.
Give Mary credit, and I'll say this for her. I interviewed her. Ronnie and I interviewed her 3 or 4 weeks ago, right here in the studio, and she definitely made it clear she wants to work. She wants to work with Ben Winograd. She wants to work with the Democrats. She wants to work toward the middle. So I give her credit. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go live with Ronnie, and then Tom, we're going to give you last word. Ronnie's at ACP headquarters. We're going to find out what's happening there, and then we'll give you last word, and then we'll sign off for the night. All right? So we're just going to dial her up real quick, and
this is just how Walter Cronkite used to.
Exactly right. I think of Walter Cronkite. Dial.
Hi, John.
Hi, Ronnie. Okay, you're live on the air. Thank you for coming on again. So, Ronnie, just to let you know, we have called all but one race at this point. The 6 Democrats have held, or in the case of Adrian, has been elected to her first term. We've also called Mary Fay as being reelected. We've also called Mark Zdanowicz as being elected to his first term. We have not called Lee Gold / Al Cortez. Any news from there? What's the mood? What's being said there?
Well, the mood here isn't very optimistic. I don't have all the numbers that you guys have, so I haven't seen all the absentee ballot numbers or whatever other district might be missing. I'd like to catch up with that. I'm a numbers person, so I definitely need to look at all those results.
I'm going to ask Jen in the control room to send that out to you right now while we're on this call. So
okay.
We'll get that sent. We have everything, but I think but a few absentees at this point.
So, well, if you haven't aired it yet, I spoke with Mark Merritt and I spoke with Lee Gold, and they both just made, and actually all of the candidates,
here just made some speeches thanking their supporters. They haven't actually conceded, but they have made speeches that indicates that they don't feel like things are looking very positive for a Connecticut party here tonight. But they vowed to keep the party going and said that this is just the beginning of something that they want to continue not only in West Hartford, but throughout the state and maybe nationally as well.
Well, it's we're learning if you're not on the A or B line, it can be an uphill battle to get elected to anything.
So, well, I'm interested in hearing what's been going on at the other headquarters and what other candidates are saying about how they think the results ended up the way they did.
I think I'm not out of line saying there is some surprise over at Democrat headquarters. I think there is a little bit of surprise. I think they're feeling what we're feeling here in studio. Really surprised at the way things played out. You know, Mary is in line to be the next minority leader. So it's time for her to work with, you know, everybody on council. And it's going to be an interesting transition, an interesting 2 years. So anyway, and then, you know, we've been getting great input from Chris Williams tonight and from the Republican headquarters. And obviously the mood there is very, very good. And I think they're feeling really good about Al Cortez capturing that 9th spot.
So Don, are all the results in?
I believe all but a handful of absentee ballots are in. But again, we're sitting here on camera and we're just taking stuff as we get it from Jen and from the parties. So, but Jen was comfortable with us calling all but one of the races.
It looks like there's some numbers up on the screen here. Yep. And I can't read from far enough away, but it does look like right. The numbers that you're calling are. Do you have an update?
Yeah, no, we're showing Al leading Lee by 109 votes.
So is that close enough to trigger an automatic recount?
I don't think so. I think we're looking at roughly 15,000 votes. So 5% would be 75.
Okay.
So, and again, just going off very rough numbers here, but I think it's south of 100 to trigger a recount.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, all right. So I think what we'll do, Jen, is let's queue up the interview Ronnie had with Mark Merritt. We've not had Mark on at all, and then we'll ask Tom for the last word, and we'll call it a night. Okay.
Sounds good with me.
All right, Ronnie. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Great job by her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Wonderful to work with too. So yeah, let's get that. Let's do the Ronnie with Mark Merritt.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Newton, managing editor of WeHa.com, and we are back at Ocho Cafe with the members of a Connecticut party, and the results are coming in, and unfortunately for the people here tonight, it doesn't look good. Actually, doesn't look like what many people expected. I've got Mark Merritt here with me. Mark, what do you have to say about how this election night went and about the race that you and your fellow candidates ran?
Ronnie, thank you. Ronnie, thank you for the opportunity. I think we actually ran a very good race with regards to the issues and solutions and some ideas, which was the core of what we wanted to do at a Connecticut party. We're doing that one. We got great feedback throughout the last couple of weeks, door knocking, seeing fellow residents, seeing some folks after the polls today, but at the end of the day, it's what the votes that count, that matter, and I love what we've done. We've actually been able to reach a number of voters to think about there's a viable option for their party. Well, this run was not successful. What I do like that what's occurred here is now we are officially a party for West Hartford, and that we can continue to build upon what we've done here and continue to send the message, think about things in the middle, the solutions, ideas, and bring folks together for this. And so that's kind of what Lee and I would love to continue with my fellow running mates. We all believe in this initiative of trying to create a difference, as well as bringing folks together.
What do you think led to the results we're seeing today? Somebody asked me if it might have had anything to do with the proposal or the idea of merging Conard and Hall. Do you think people kind of held that against you, or do you think it was something else?
I think there's a couple of things. So that idea, the premise of an idea of how we think differently about how we govern, looking at that was probably held against us with regards to people going to the voting booth. we still got that question. It's something that we throw out there as an idea and see about starting a dialogue and how do we get and work together to look at things differently. So yeah, I would say that was probably one item that was there that was on that caused that. But I also think the third party run is very different and very new. So if you go back in history for anybody who's run a third party, it takes some time. I think when we created this party, looking back 30 years ago, I think it took some time to get some grassroots efforts and getting some establishment at a state level. So I think we're in a good spot. I really like what we've done. I love the team that we've created, and I love the environment and the energy that we've created here. So a lot of friends here, a lot of family, but again, also people that are from both sides of the aisle that are here tonight with us. So I would love to have had different results. I'd love to be sitting on the council, but to my fellow candidates, congratulations, and we look forward to working and staying involved.
Thank you so much.
Good remarks from Mark. We were saying right before the interview ended, stand-up guy, taking it as well as you can. It's tough to take your lumps in anything in life, and they're taking their lumps tonight. So anyway, so we're gonna call it a night. But Tom, and I'm sorry. I expected things to go better for ACP, but they didn't. We're gonna give you last word, and then we're gonna call it a night here. So what are your thoughts?
Well, it's disappointing. I know that Lee Gold and his slate, they worked very hard to get their message out. I think a bit of history is in order. Third parties in our country have traditionally at least achieved the impact of pushing elected officials in major parties toward the center, which is what this A Connecticut Party is all about. They are self-professed centrists. They believe in that as not as an ideology, but as a pragmatic way of operating, and that can apply at the national level or local level or state level even. So I don't know what the future of the party will hold. Mark Merritt spoke eloquently about it and has some hopes for it, as does Lee Gold. But in any case, in this particular race, I think that the Republicans will have moved to the center in part because of the pressure from a Connecticut Party.
I think, look, hearkening back to my conversation with Mary a couple of weeks ago, I think she is feeling pressure to move to the center. And I think a lot of that's probably coming from ACP. No question, I think people are looking over their shoulders. I think a lot of people, I think we proved it tonight, walked into today thinking that the Republicans could potentially lose all 3 seats. Instead they held. So, and it looks like we're going to be able to call the last race, Jen. Is that right? You give me a thumb up. Can I call the last race? Yeah. Okay. So there's 108 votes. So okay. So there's a typo here right now. Al Cortez 3575, Lee 2957. I'm thinking there's a typo here. So I'm not gonna call. We're gonna hold off calling that race. But I do want to thank our pundits, Tom Rome. Okay. Chris Williams.
Thank you.
Dawn Ennis.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I want to thank our folks on the field, Pat Kazikoff, Rocky Holland, and Ronnie Newton, the managing editor of wehow.com. And Carl Lance, thank you very much. It was great having you on show. Carl and I are wearing the We Voted button. This is to celebrate the women's right to vote. And they were handing these out. Suffrage, exactly. So they were handing these out. So we're wearing these proudly. We both voted today, and obviously a very significant moment in our country's history. So
there it is.
There we go. They zoomed in close. You got a nice close up of my face. I'm reminded of the scene from Tootsie. Let's get ready for the close up. No, not too close.
Yeah.
That's the way you want to treat
How
me,
far
guys.
back can you pull?
Exactly.
What do you think about Cleveland?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way you want to treat me here. So
good.
Anyway, thank you all for watching so much. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you on the next roundtable, November 10th, I believe. We're going to have the 2 chiefs. Ronnie and I are going to have the 2 chiefs in studio. We're going to talk about that. And then also in November, we finally have some dates for Mayor Cantor and Town Manager Matt Hart. That's going to be a live town hall. People are going to be in the audience. People will interact directly and ask questions of both of them. So on that note, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on November 10th.
Fantastic.